I'm Tim from Goodwerks. Thank you again for watching, listening, so on. Today I'm here with Britt Carpenter, the founder, executive director of Philly Uknown Project. Correct? Is that right?
Philly Uknown Project, but Philly Uknown is basically how we're known as.
Perfect.
So it works.
Perfect. So Britt, give me like a real like quick and dirty rundown of Philly Uknown. Like what do you do? What do you do? What's the goal? What's the purpose?
The purpose of Philly Uknown basically is to give people a place in this society, in our community, to have a voice. It's really important because, right here in our city of Philly, we have some of the most vulnerable neighborhoods and some of the most vulnerable communities. And we are experiencing some crazy stuff here. We are experiencing an outbreak of public health due to this opioid epidemic. We're experiencing gun violence. We're experiencing so much here that Philly Uknown was set up and designed to be able to give back to the community, to have people in the community have a safe place to go, and to be able to provide resources for people and give them a chance.
So explain what vulnerability is. Please, like what is when you say
Sure.
like that we have like these vulnerable communities, these vulnerable people. What do you mean by vulnerable?
Sure. I mean, when I talk about our most vulnerable communities, I talk about the fact that we have communities, we have neighborhoods here in Philly that are living way below the poverty level. We have neighborhoods here in Philly that are barely sustaining with what they're making or not making because some of them can't even find jobs or keep jobs because of the fact of the way the economy is. So we're talking about different neighborhoods such as Kensington right here in our own backyard. It's been a neighborhood that the city has sort of forgotten about. It has sort of became that place where, and I really don't want to say it because it's a stigma to them, but it became a dumping ground from the city. The city really didn't care about these residents. So they said, you know what, let's let that be the open air drug trade and let whatever happen over there. So when I talk about the most vulnerable residents and the most vulnerable communities, I talk about those that don't have a fighting chance, or don't have the resources that are given to them, or that they even know sometimes how to get those resources. I mean, to some of us, paying bills is sort of just a daily routine or a comment.
Sure.
To them, it's something that needs to be, sometimes learned or showed or helped, or they don't have the funds to do it. So how do we help them keep their water on? How do we help them keep their electricity on? So it's that I talk about vulnerable.
Gotcha. Okay. And then when you say dumping ground,
bad choice of words, but
well, no, I don't think that it is. I don't think it's a bad choice of words at all. I'm just kind of that stuck, that hung, that put a little barb in my brain, and I'm new to Philly. Okay. I've only been here since June. So if you can't tell by my Midwest accent and my non-Philly, I don't say water.
You will soon.
I say water ice, but that's it.
That's it. You don't say water.
I say water. I drink water, but Rita's has water ice.
Water ice.
Okay, so
it's meant to be that way. I think.
Yeah,
it really is.
So this area is new to me. Seeing folks that are in distress is not new to me. So when you say dumping ground, what kind of came to mind was that the city and that the local government, whatever, are just kind of like allowing. It's not a literal dumping ground as like leave garbage here, but it's kind of like this is where we can just let the folks that we don't want to deal with exist.
Exactly. What it is, it's become an area that's forgotten. There's a neighborhood that has been long forgotten by many mayors in the past. We have a new mayor now that came in with a platform to try to help, and then that sort of fizzled out because not much helped. But when I use that term or that phrase or that analogy or comparison, it's really like, you know what? It's not our problem.
Sure.
We're not going to deal with it.
Sure.
We have a zip code over here, 19103, and the most, the richest zip code in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania, even Rittenhouse Square. We have that right there. And then 3 miles away, we have one of the poorest neighborhoods, one of the most economically challenged neighborhoods ever, and they don't do anything to it. They'll put trash compactors, huge garbage solar trash compactors on every corner of Rittenhouse Square, but they won't put one garbage can on Kensington Avenue. To me, that just speaks volumes.
Yeah, and they're going to take care of the people who pay the most taxes.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it won't stop them from reassessing the tax values of the residents in this area that we're talking about, and them assessing their properties accordingly they can't afford to live to begin with, let alone all the taxes thrown on there. So anyway, that's a difference.
So kind of going along the thread of the dumping ground. Mm-hmm. So is that, elaborate a little bit on, so like these are folks that they don't necessarily want to deal with, that they're just kind of like shuffling off. So is that kind of how like Philly Uknown, like the name of Philly Uknown was generated, or like where does that come from?
Philly Uknown came from, I was coming out of a dark place in my life. I was coming off of a 25 plus year bender on substance use abuse, ranging from alcohol to cocaine to you name it. I didn't discriminate when it came to it, but eventually to opiates and heroin. And, a lot of that came from myself and a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-worth, a lack of belonging or connections to people.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I was just this nobody. I was just this, corporate robot who was sent there to do my job 5 days a week.
Yep.
And I wasn't Britt Carpenter. I was this person working for this company. And I didn't have a name, or I didn't have an identity. And through my active addiction, and near the end of my active addiction, that's what I craved. I craved to have an identity. I craved to be known. I craved to have somebody say, "Hey, Britt, how are you today?"
Yeah.
Instead of like just sort of pass me by like, there's something wrong with that guy. We're not going to pay attention to him.
Sure.
And, we have one of the largest homelessness populations in the country here in Philly. We also have the largest, some will dispute it, say it's the second now, open air drug trade in this country, which causes what's happening here in Kensington to happen. And these people are they get passed by. People drive by them, they walk by them, they pretend to know them, they open the doors, for people at a convenience store, and nobody says anything. It's like they have blinders on, they don't want to be paid attention to. Sometimes, people forget that a little can go a long way. It's just because somebody's asking for a handout of money or something. Sometimes a smile or hello or an acknowledgement goes a long way. And that's the unknown part. Being unknown sucks.
Yeah.
Not having an identity or feeling worth of anything really can take detrimental tolls.
Yeah.
It's what causes a lot of substance use disorder. It causes a lot of mental health disorder. It causes a lot of the suicides that we have in our country today. And I wanted to bring a place where people wouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Where people could be who they were, be able to be vulnerable, to be able to, to be able to just live and not be judged.
Yeah.
And that's hard in today's society.
Sure. Absolutely. It is. And speaking to lack of self-worth, lack of identity, lack of community, lack of connectedness, like these are all things that I've dealt with too. I've been very fortunate that I haven't had any substance issues. I've gone through phases where it's like, I love beer. Like I enjoy that, but like I've been sober for a few years. So like I'm very fortunate that the internal struggles that I've had haven't resulted in some sort of like physical or addictive process. So I'm very fortunate with that. So I'm very grateful for that. But I do very much understand the lack of self-worth, the disconnectedness, the inability to connect with other people. So being unknown is something that I've certainly connected with at points in my life too.
I think everybody has. I think I don't think there's one person out there that doesn't feel like they have been unknown at one point in time. There might be some people out there that are very well known that might feel like they're unknown because all you're seeing is one side of the person, a facade. Yeah. These are roles that we play. These are the different hats that we wear. Yep. And people tend to forget that, behind all those facades, and when you peel the layers back, that's the real Britt.
Yeah.
That's who you get. That's what it's all about. And I think that's what people forget. And, we have just been so focused and I don't want to use the word program, but it's almost programmed to keep up with the Joneses.
It is programming. I 100% believe like what you were saying about, I didn't feel like Britt Carpenter. Right. I just felt like I was at a corporate job. I was there. I was, Monday through Friday doing my job. And, I was recently having a conversation with a friend of mine that's a teacher. And She's not at a standard school. I'm pretty sure she's at a Montessori. Okay. So the structure is vastly different than like a standard public school.
Right.
And it's not new knowledge that school is just there to build workers, right? Like it's very much like a prison system, and it's meant for, it's taking these kids and putting them inside walls for extended periods of time during the day. So it's like no wonder why there's these issues. So it's like it is programming. It is cultural programming. It is social programming, and it's like no wonder why we have these issues as time progresses, where it's like people are unable to find who they truly are because they're conditioned to walk away from self-exploration.
Well, as we grow up and we are trying to find who we are and come into our own as, adolescence, it's one of the hardest points of our lives, with such changes in our own bodies and minds and discovering who you are. I think society takes a huge role in that and dictates who you're supposed to be.
Sure.
And people hold on to that because people want to be a part of something. They want to hold on to something like that. And when I see that, I feel sad because I want to know, does that person really know what they want? Yeah. Do they really know who they are? And society has dictated who we should be, how we should react, how we should be. That's why society, forgets about places like we talked about, these vulnerable neighborhoods.
Sure.
Because that's sort of not the norm.
Yeah, they want to put blinders on. They want to disregard and
It's that not in my backyard sort of thing.
For sure. Which is really amazing because guess what? It is in your backyard.
Shocker.
Surprise.
Yeah.
We Joey and I went down to scout the route that we're going to be doing for the upcoming Few Fest a couple weeks back. And we were on Market. I think we were a block up. We were by the old Ben Franklin post office. And like there was this woman that was just sitting in the middle of the sidewalk. And like this is pretty crass, but it's like she was like a speed bump. And it's like, people are just kind of like,
walking, stepping
around, and like, it's just like, you at least like say hi, like we like, I found a bottle of water, like, cause it was cooking that day, and like what you're saying is like, along with what you're saying is like, not in my backyard, but it's like, no, it's literally in front of you on the sidewalk. And I shouldn't say it, they.
No, it isn't it. It's an issue.
Yeah.
So we're addressing an issue. We're not even addressing, it's an issue of, basic needs of humanity and basic respect towards humanity.
Yep.
But, when you talk about just a simple thing as people say, well, I don't know what to do to help. It's a cooking hot day out there. We just went through the hottest days of the year or of many, many years.
Smoking hot this summer, yeah.
Take an extra bottle of water.
Yeah.
It's a cold day out. Take an extra pair of gloves. Take a hat. You'd be amazed at a little gesture like that, and you probably saw that in somebody's eyes when they light up.
For sure.
It goes a long way, and that's that whole unknown thing. You walk by somebody and it's invisible, and I think that's because people don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. It's kind of like if I don't acknowledge it, I don't have to address it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
If I don't acknowledge it, then there's no way for me to make a mistake of how I address it. And
I also think when it comes to something like what we experience here in Kensington, with what we experienced with the, opioid epidemic, and the heroin and the fentanyl, and now the tranq and xylazine that's out there, and the newer drugs coming out that are just destroying. I think what happens is people ignore it because they don't know how to address it.
Sure, right.
People are maybe afraid of it, and that fear, that false evidence appearing real, in their own minds, instead of actually just saying, hey, I need to open myself, learn how to approach this. Not a lot of people do that. They want to stick in their own little bubbles, their own little worlds, and that's it.
Yeah, head in the sand.
That's that NIMBYism then. Like, it's not going to happen in my backyard.
Right.
But you're right. Guess what? It is in your backyard.
Yeah, it's quite literally in your backyard, out your step. I was telling you before we hopped on, like I'm living in Port Richmond right now. It's not the worst, it's not the best, but there's a lot of, moving from where I was living outside of Flint, Michigan, and it was very, had like a 3/4 acre yard, green grass, pretty, everybody had yards and it was spacious. And coming in here, and I was like, man, this is dense.
Welcome to the concrete jungle.
Yeah. And and I've been in cities, like I've been to New York City. I've spent a lot of miles walking around New York City, and I'd been here before one time previously. I've been to other major cities, but when you like live here, and like when you come in and like you're making that trip from, so we're in Frankfurt now, and then it's only a couple of miles, but man, it's dense. Yeah. There's a lot of people in these areas, and it's dirty. There's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of work that's happening. Like I'm seeing like new buildings and stuff, but it's like super dirty. Lots of folks. There's a lot of people who are certainly not. They have no abode. There's folks who are just living out in the street. And it's really hard to see for sure. So the reaction of wanting to pull away from it is understandable. But it's like, then when you're like living here all the time, like how long can you like pull away? How long can you like refuse to see what's there?
I think people pull away out of fear or out of the fact that they don't know about something. It's sort of like, you think about it, where you live on your block, people 4 blocks over live a totally different life.
Completely.
And that's the way a lot of cities were sort of formed over the years.
Yep, of course.
You had your sections, your Italian section, your Polish section. You had, that's the way cities were, and that's the neighborhoods. But now you're looking at it, and you're getting this mixture of people. You're getting this meshing of different people. I mean, you're putting $500,000 homes in with $250,000 homes, and that's pushing it, you know? And now you're combining these different communities together, and you got to learn to coexist and live together. Sometimes it's easier to avoid it.
Right.
Live with those blinders on. Remember that once I'm inside my doors, nothing else matters, because outside it doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm going to go out, go to work, come back, go out, go to dinner, come back. I'm not going to have a community with my neighbors. I'm not going to have block parties. I'm not going to have that type of relationship. And that's what causes the division. That's what causes that. It's not a me thing. It's a we thing. And people forget that. This is all about us together, combined. And, Philly has been really good at that over the years of dividing people. I can get into it a bit deeper, but I blame the political system here in Philly, one of the worst ever. They only care about their agendas. I also blame, like I said, the people for lack of knowledge. I mean, open your heart, open your mind.
Sure.
All it takes is to listen. And, and you said about schools being like these programming things. I was awarded, which is an interesting thing. I was awarded an award with my high school. It was a graduate of distinction award, and like 4 graduates out of all the years get it each year or something. And I was received one year, which was pretty cool because I never received any awards in school. And and part of what I said when I was up there was, I was like, the classroom is everywhere. It goes beyond these 4 walls. Make sure that when you get out there into that classroom, you do as much as you can. You learn as much as you can. You absorb as much as you can, and you give as much as you can. And people forget about that too. Because once again, we're going to work in our own little bubble, keep it as it is, not wish it any differently, and we're going to forget about everybody else. And, that's where the breakdown is.
So with that, so what you're doing is an active service for this community, this vulnerable community. So you said you dealt with addictions for like 20, 25 years. So when you came out of that, when you broke free from that, what was the guide for you? What got you to say, like, I don't want people to, who are struggling with what I struggled with, to struggle with it? Like, what was like that pivot for you? What made you decide, like, this is the time for me to do something?
I was on my 4th overdose, and back then Narcan wasn't something that people were carrying all the time. It wasn't something that was prominent. People didn't have the training on it. This was, dated like 2012, 13, 14, those years, and knowing that I had these 4 chances to come back, and there was people that didn't, I knew I had to change it and get my shit together and do something. and become something and give something back, like I said. And I just kept trying to find it. I mean, when you're using, when you're in active addiction and you get to that point where you're high, you will talk so much about going into recovery and going clean and sober and all that stuff. And that word clean just drives me nuts to begin with. But, getting sober and I thought about it and I thought, here I am every time that I come out of an overdose, I'm like, I'm going to do better. I'm going to go and I'm going to do this, do that. And instead what I do, I go out and buy another bag and then I just take Russian roulette and hopefully it doesn't cause another overdose. So I started, looking at this community and seeing so many positive things happening in Philly. I've been a part of Philly forever, most of my whole life. And I never really saw things that I started to see coming about near the end of my active addiction. And I said to myself, if I can get out of this, I'm going to start a place in this community to give back and spread some knowledge and join people and connect people, just be a connector. And that was so important. And it was my 5th overdose and I almost didn't come back out of it. And it was the EMT showed up and it was 3 Narcans and I finally came through and I went to the mirror. I looked in the mirror and I didn't know who I was looking at. And I said, I need something. I said, I need some type of help. I need to give something back. And that's when it all started to change. And that's when I started to feel that there was some type of purpose.
Yeah.
Because if I could actually, survive a 5th overdose and be able to walk away from it, it was about time to, grow up and cut the shit and face all the trauma that I've been running from all my life and face all those fears and anxieties. And that's what I did. And probably a long about answer to what you asked, but yeah.
No, it's great. I mean,
that's how I got to where I am, that and, a couple bucks down the drain after many years of drug use,
Sure.
Seeing my beautiful brand new cars and houses go by and you start thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
You don't get any younger.
No, no, we don't get any younger.
We don't.
So as you were looking in the mirror after this 5th time, and you said that you didn't know who you were. We've also talked about self-worth, community, and being your own person. Was that the starting point of figuring out who Britt Carpenter is, who you really are? Was that the crux of figuring that out?
Yeah, it absolutely was. It's interesting because growing up, I was actually a really good kid. And I mean, you don't hear a lot of people say that, but I was. I didn't get in trouble. I never had detentions, stuff like that. I was just a good kid. And, my mother will even say that, which is great coming from an Italian mother to hear her say that. And I did a lot of service as a teenager. I ran things like the Relay for Life, the Swim for Cancer, stuff like that. I was really active with that. And I always loved doing things like that. I worked for the Boys Club and I did programming and I sort of felt like a community path at that point. And then all of a sudden, mental health strikes and you don't know how to handle it. And then the addiction goes into full gear and you forget about all that. And as I was coming out of it, I remembered these little bits and blurbs about who I was as a teenager. I mean, because that was many years ago. I'm old. So, you don't get this color hair because you're young. It comes from years of shit. But I wanted to be able to give back again and to be able to provide a service of some type because that's when I felt my best.
Yeah.
That's when I felt worthy.
Yep.
And it wasn't about me. It was about helping others.
Right.
I was that kid in 5th grade who was out there reading as many books as you could for the readathon.
Yeah.
To gain the money. You know what I mean?
Getting those Pizza Hut parties.
Yeah.
Getting those
stuff
personal
like that.
pan pizzas. Absolutely.
That was me. And I love that, And, looking in that mirror, it was where was that disconnect? I worked 18 years in corporate America where I was in a soul sucking career. I made a shit ton of money. Nothing to show for it, but I made a ton of money.
Yeah.
And I had no sense of respect or self-worth or self-being. Who was I? So yes, I finally wanted to know who Britt Carpenter was. I wanted to get to know this person or become a person that I never knew I could become.
Yeah.
So when I was able to shed those layers and look through life without the rose-colored glasses and look through them with a very clear vision and see things very vividly, it was interesting because then I saw what I was meant to be or meant to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I talk about it. It's like in my addiction, I probably, you know, would say like 2 or 3 words to somebody sitting around and then like not like I'd clam up. Now you can't shut me up. Now I want to talk because I want these connections, because especially good connections.
Yeah.
And whether I walk away from a connection saying, oh, that guy was great or that guy was a D-bag, you know, it was a connection.
Sure.
And I learned from them and I need to have respect for them.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
whether I like the person or not, I should respect them. As long as they're not hurting other people or animals, they should be cool.
Game.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I do.
You know, and I started to learn that too. And I started to learn a lot about life. You know, I wasn't that cocky, you know, shithead little 25-year-old who thought he knew everything. Tending bar and working in a corporate job and, you know, this and that and the other thing. I had no idea who I was. You know, it took me into my 40s to know exactly who that person was. And it's still, I don't know who it is, but I'm liking the person more and more every day.
Yeah.
You know, 9 years in recovery and, you know, I'm really getting I dig the person. I'm okay with being by myself now. Before I wasn't. You know, I'm okay with like not having people over, being that center of like, let's have a party just because I want people to be around me.
Sure.
And I became comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
And that was a starting to it. You know, once I'm comfortable with who I am, I can be comfortable being around other people.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So it's interesting that we were discussing that. I was having a conversation with a friend last night, and when I was in high school, like I was a straight edge kid. Like, man, I love hardcore music. I love metal. Like,
were you a skater?
I tried to be, but I was also very large. So if I fell, it was very painful for me.
Gravity sucks.
I had a really nice deck, but I never used it because fear and mass. And you know, so I was always like a straight edge kid. I was big time against it. My mom's husband had an alcohol problem, so I got to see the reality of what that looked like often, and especially when someone was violent when they were inebriated. So like that was a learning thing for me, and I got to see that. And I had never really had any draw or appeal to any substances or alcohol or anything. But
I'm sorry you and your mom had to go through that.
You know,
but maybe it was made you stronger as a person. I'm sorry.
No, please, there's no need to apologize. I really think that it opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I'm grateful for that.
There you go.
And I make a big point to practice gratitude in everything, in every aspect. Like, there's recently a little internet meme that I saw that it said, you know, if you removed all the mistakes, if you removed all the hardship from your life, you wouldn't be who you are. And like with what you're saying is like, you know, you're becoming more comfortable with who you are. I'm experiencing the same thing.
That's great.
And what I was saying with my friend, I was talking, and I was like, you know, I was a straight edge kid, and like we'd go to the hardcore shows and get the permanent marker and put big X's on our hands, and like we'd go and like, you know, it was that deal. And now it's like I'm basically straight edge again. I mean, I am sober.
Good for you.
And I'm very fortunate that I haven't struggled with that, but it's, you know, having like a clear mind and being able to approach life and experience it at its fullest without like the influence of chemicals like on my brain and dulling senses or expanding sense, like whatever it is, you know, being able to like, I'm finding that 17-year-old, 16-year-old straight edge kid again. And I'm like, man, like that was like, I resonated with that. And like that now it's like, that's coming back. It's like, man, I'm 40. I still feel like I'm 16, 17 here. I still quite often act as such.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But as time goes on, like, and I'm thinking that, you know, I am more and more comfortable like in who I am as a person. And it's interesting how we kind of find our way back to that. We find like those things that were before life happens, before like all of these things that go on in the world around us, that go on in our lives with our relationships, how we can like migrate back to that and like find out like, okay, like I was actually onto something. Maybe I shouldn't have been like steered away from that. So like I totally get that. Like I totally understand.
As you say it, it's interesting. I used to, in a different life, teach psychology at a business college, and I used to always tell the students that the person you were growing up, you will regress back to eventually for one of two reasons. You'll either want to be like that person again and fulfill that, role of living it out, or you'll say, I never want to be what that person was, and I want to continue to do better as I get older. And I think,
I think you can do both.
I do. But I always feel like you regress into that. And because I do that, and it's funny because I see myself, sometimes doing what the 16-year-old Britt did, doing, the positive things for neighbors and, enjoy going to do this, lousy driver, all that stuff, now. And, so I think I think that's great to hear, because I don't think many people recognize that or accept it.
Yeah. I think acceptance is a thing, right? So I'm a big fan of stoicism. And I have a big canvas print in my place of Marcus Aurelius, and I'm big into the Ryan Holiday books, and so stoicism has really helped me rearrange my brain, and has affected how I approach life and how I approach things, and just acceptance is a huge thing, and not just acceptance of the world at large, but acceptance of myself and how I function within that world, and then being able to build the space that I need mentally and emotionally to react and interact with my environment and interactions with people. That's been a huge thing for me, and my sobriety does play into that because I'm able to I'm clear of mind, all the time, and if the emotions do peak, if they do spike, then it's okay, take a breath, step back. And, in 2011, my brother died, my oldest brother died. There was a big age gap. He was my half brother, and it was very unexpected. And man, I remember the day that it happened, went to the liquor store, grabbed a pint of bourbon, and just sat in my home office and just put that whole thing down, and was just reminiscing and just thinking about him. And it's I've learned that you need to, I shouldn't say need to, because everything it's different for everybody, but for me personally, leaning into these emotions that we have, and really feeling them, and allowing them to overtake us in certain times is what's necessary. So I felt that at that time I was oh, this is going to help me do this. But then looking back at it, it's but does it? So having that clarity as, I don't want to say as an adult, because I still don't feel like I'm an adult, but having that has been a big thing for me, and how we address life and how we interact with people and how we see people. And I think that when you're better with yourself, when you're more clear with yourself, you're able to serve others at a better capacity.
I tell my team all the time that if you're okay being alone with yourself and your own thoughts, and you can walk away from it not disrupted by it, you're good.
Yeah.
You've arrived at a place where there's this level that you maintain at, that then you can move forward and move on. It's an acceptance once again. That acceptance of self means a lot. I hear all these people out there who are putting people down, and they're throwing insults, and you know why? Because they're miserable with themselves.
Yeah.
Come to terms with who you are, and it won't matter what the Joneses are doing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who gives a, So, and I look at that, and and being on the front lines, doing what myself and my team does with Philly Uknown for the last 9 years, and and seeing the way people have been living, that shouldn't be living the way they do. It gives you a different perspective, but it also gives you a different opinion of yourself, because you can accept that, because you can work with it. I've had people come out already, and they've totally had breakdowns what they saw.
Yeah.
And they couldn't handle it, shaking, freezing. And, people are well, do you become callous to that? You never become callous to it, but you accept it.
Sure.
Because it's life.
So what is it? If you could give a summary, I don't want to cheapen this, and
Sure.
I don't want to detract from this, but what is being on the front lines, with what you do, what does that look like for you? to somebody that has no idea about Philly Uknown, like what does that look like as like what's the basic, the daily, the average experience for you?
You know, it depends on the initiative. I mean, we are based out of Kensington. Mm-hmm. Our hub of operations is right in the middle of Kensington. It's right in this stigmatized area that people have been calling the Badlands, which is such a bad word for it, because can you imagine like saying, where do you live, the Badlands? Just you know.
I think it sounds kind of badass personally, but.
But I think for people living there, you know, that it came from, it was the Badlands because back in the crack epidemic days, that's what they called that. And that's where people were going to. But we're right in the heart of that at Dean, Indiana. So, you know, a lot of people are able to walk out of their front door without shoes on or sit on their stoop and enjoy, you know, an hour on the stoop with their neighbors. But you go into an area that we're in, you know, that where our hub of operations is. We have a 13,000 square foot community garden. We do boots on the ground outreach, all in Kensington, all within, you know, the realm of all this. And you see things differently. Our days are like, you know, some days we'll be stepping over, you know, used syringes all over the ground and caps and blue baggies from drugs, and we'll be stepping over human feces, and we'll be stepping over dead rats just laying outside of people's homes, and garbage. Garbage like you've never seen before. Like, where does it come from? Like, all of a sudden it's just like this mystery vacuum that just like dumps the garbage there. It's just so bizarre. And we see that part of it, which people shouldn't have to see, especially people who live there. Sure. You know, so that's part of it. You know, you have to mentally be prepared for what you're about to see, because it gets even worse than that. Then you're watching human lives laying on the ground. They look lifeless because they've nodded out from whatever it is that they've used, or there's potential overdose going on there. You see people lying there who, you know, have open wounds because of, you know, the trank and the xylazine now, and it's, you know, causing the bacterial, you know, to eat from the inside out of people's skin. So you see things that most people shouldn't have to be exposed to, let alone if you live through. Nobody should.
To anyone, right?
People, when I say most people, there are people who are going to be exposed to it, like medical professionals who chose to be exposed to it.
Sure.
Nobody asked to live like this.
Right.
So, you know, we see that part of it. So but then we also see beauty. Yeah. In all this.
What's the beauty that you see?
The neighbors are amazing. The neighbors that we work with from our community garden, they could have very little to nothing, and they'd still give you the shirts off their back. Yeah. You know, that's beauty. To see the pride that the neighbors have, you know, knowing that nobody else is proud of that community, that's amazing. Yeah. The beauty is to hand somebody a bottle of water or a new pair of sneakers or a used pair of sneakers and to see their face light up and thank you. Yeah. That's beauty.
Yeah. Big time.
To be able to go home at the end of the day and know that you're at peace with what you saw, that, you know, that's beauty in my mind. Sorry.
There's nothing to be sorry for.
I get pretty choked up sometimes because it's sort of surreal to me that I'm at where I'm at and I'm able to do what I do, because there are so many people that will never have the opportunity because they haven't made it. And there's so many people out there that don't have that opportunity because they're not making it. Yeah. So, you know, the beauty is just being able to wake up every day, because, you know, it's the only guarantee we have is today.
Yeah. Not even.
Yeah.
Not even.
It's this minute right now. Yeah. This is it. This is our guarantee, man.
Yep. And that's got to also be very striking, considering where you were. And I'm sure that, like, you're seeing a lot of things where you must carry a lot of gratitude knowing that you're able to be there, and, you know, how easily those roles could be reversed.
I was a selfish son of a bitch. I used to expect people to do things for me in my active addiction. I expected, and if you didn't, next. Sure. Whoever can help me will be the next person. Right. I don't expect anything anymore, and I am so grateful for everything that I get. You know, when somebody donates, you know, $1 or $5, that's gratitude to me, because that's you know, going towards a greater purpose. And I never expected to have that. You know, I always chased the bigger paycheck. I always chase the next promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I always chase the nicer car.
Mm-hmm.
None of that makes any difference if you can't enjoy it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You talk about beer, and I loved beer.
Yeah.
I love drinking a beer.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it. Everybody else had a problem with me drinking beer and vodka and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you talk about that and you talk about being able to differentiate that in your brain and, you know, do the sober route then and do the clear-minded route, that's beauty.
Yeah.
There's beauty in this world. Like, for me to be able to wake up and see things so vividly, you know, that's the beauty.
So when you're seeing all of these things, like when you're exposed to all of these things, like both the good and the bad, like what brings you there? Like what takes you to these places? What are you doing that's putting you in these places and situations? Like what is the actual like thing that gets you there?
For me to get to those places, it would be my mind frame, what's going on throughout the day. People always say to me, "You're so selfless. It's so good of you to go out there and do what you're doing and to help all these people." And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, you really don't get it. It is not selfless. It's very selfish of me because I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
Because I need this.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not out there doing it, I'm doing this maybe.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing I want to do.
Right.
I don't want to pick up that needle.
Right.
I'll give you a good example. Back in March, I got extremely ill. I'm a person that when I'm down and I'm ill. I'm a big baby.
Yeah.
Like most guys are, the worst. Like, where's my mom?
Yeah, man flu.
And I was sick for a couple months. I wasn't able to get out. That happened. Then I found out I needed a hip replacement in May. I got a full hip replacement, total hip replacement. There was a mass on there they had to remove. My car was stolen. I had to move because my place was being sold. There was all these things that built up in life that normally I would have grabbed for the needle. But instead, I grabbed for my support system. Yeah. I turned to the support system, the community that I work with and worship, because that's my energy.
Yeah.
So if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
It really gets me to where I'm at.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a Jordan B. Peterson. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He talks about he talks about a lot of stuff, but he was specifically speaking in this instance, speaking about addiction and recovery and how replacing the habit of addiction with good habits or better habits is like a crucial aspect of overcoming that. So that is like really amazing that instead of reaching for the needle, you're reaching for a community. That's big. But I really appreciate the philosophical response, but I was kind of looking for like the very literal response. Like what actions are you doing? Like why are you in these areas and why are you in these communities? Why are you what are you doing while you're exposing yourself to these things?
I thought that's what you wanted.
It's all good. No, I like both answers. We're good.
I thought, Philly Uknown, the outreach that we do, we do several different outreaches.
Okay.
We have several different initiatives.
Okay.
We have one called We Grow Philly. It's about teaching people how to live sustainably through sustainable living, such as repurposing things, such as growing vegetation and learning how to eat healthy. Okay. We are in one of the largest food insecurity places around. There's food deserts, all over Philly.
Yep.
So we have a 13,000 square foot community garden.
Yeah, amazing.
That we're actually, fingers crossed, we could raise enough money to purchase it, because if they sell that land out for money, we're going to be devastated.
How much do you need?
I don't even know yet. Okay. I got to sit down and sort of figure that out with, the brains ahead of me, which would be my board president, who's amazing. She's awesome, Allison. But we have that. That is something that we do. We do that every Saturday. We go there. It's a place for people to come and work, connect, safe space. It's one of the only green spaces in Kensington you can walk around barefoot.
Oh, amazing.
We had brand new soil brought in. We had $8,000 that brand new soil brought in so we could grow vegetation from that. So that's one of the things that we do.
Okay.
We do a boots on the ground outreach where people will go out and you've seen it. You drive Allegheny, you see them posted up on the corners with their tables and their tarps. And I have a problem with that, because there you're just saying, here you go, have a nice day. Yeah. You're missing connections there, man. You're missing the connections to the people. So what we do is we get together what we call compassion bags. Compassion bags can range from anything that has, hygiene products in, pairs of socks, T-shirts, sunscreen, hand warmers, you name it, depending on season. We put them in the wagons. We go boots on the ground with the wagons and we walk around neighborhoods and we hand it to those that are unhoused and those that are housed. I don't care if you walk by me and you have your Sunday best on, you're going to get a compassion bag. I don't care if you walk by me and I go to hand you a water, you say, oh, no, I'm good, I got a house. I don't care. You need a water. It's 100 degrees out. Hydrate. Yeah. So we'll give to anybody. We do the boots on, and that's the connections that we have. Yeah. For your homework, I'm going to tell you, go out and research, if you haven't already heard of him, Johan Hari.
Okay, I haven't, but no.
Have you heard of Rat Park?
Nope.
Rat Park was a thing where these scientists came up with, like, why do people use drugs? So they put this rat in a box with a bottle of water in one end, with a bottle of water and cocaine in the other end. The rat was by itself and it kept going over to the water with the cocaine. It was feeling good, you know? Never touching the other water. What could they do, they thought, to change this? So they took this box and made it into a park. And they introduced other rat friends into this park. Before you knew it, the water that had no cocaine, they were drinking it. The water with cocaine, nothing. Because it was connections. They had connections.
Interesting.
So Johan Hari does a TED Talk saying everything you learn about addiction is wrong. The opposite of addiction isn't recovery, it's connections. So we go out and we give connections in the community because we're working with people who are housed, but they may not have the water turned on. Sure. We're working with people that may not have heat. They may not even have the same, colored socks. They may not have this, So we give to whoever. That we do boots on the ground. That's what we do there. We also have a workforce development program where we have people that coming from incarceration and addiction. Basically, those are the two. Those people that come from those areas are the hardest to find employment.
Sure.
Nobody wants to hire them because of trust, whatever, background, knowledge, whatever. So we've put together a day program where they come, they can work per day, 4 hours a day. We pay them per day. They go out. More so than that, we have now opened a thrift store.
Yes.
And a workforce center where they can come and they can work there, have other connections to people that are like them and to the community coming in. And then there's a little area in there where they're able to do job searches. We help them with their resumes, help them with interview skills. We give them that self-esteem that we have now into them to go out and do what they got to do. That's another one of them. And then we have another one called Philly on its Feet, where all we do is we give sneakers and footwear out. We've had Runners World donate 3,000 pairs of sneakers at one point. Kidding. We have people from all over the country sending their sneakers from different marathons to us, and we hand them out.
Amazing.
So those are some of our initiatives. That's awesome. What we do. Is that the literal sense you were looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's my buddy Sam, by the way. Sam is the workshop squirrel that.
Sam, you're awesome.
Hey, Sam. So we actually tried to have him prevent him from coming in because there was an opening over yonder.
Never.
And Sam has found his way back in. So that's Sam. He comes and hangs out with me on occasion.
I was wondering what you're looking at there. Look at him.
I haven't seen him in a few days, but that's
he's
Sam.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's great. Back on course here.
Sam is a squirrel for everybody who doesn't know.
Sam the squirrel is our friend. It
wasn't like somebody was trying to get in through the roof.
There's not we don't have like a ninja crawling through or anything.
We tried to block him out.
We tried to get rid of the ninja. No, Sam the squirrel comes and hangs out.
Excuse me.
As you're saying that about like that work program,
sure.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect with you on that because I would love to bring somebody here to work for me.
Amazing.
So.
That's our goal.
We'll figure that out. So like I've been like the whole point of Goodwerks coming here. One of the points of Goodwerks coming here was to be able to, because like I couldn't bring employees in my basement. Like I can't just bring like random people in the basement of my home. So one of the points coming here was to grow and expand, and I'm going to be needing another set of hands because I can't do everything. I can do everything. However, it prevents more quantity from being built, right?
So there's going to be more.
So there's going to be. I need help, and I've had a really amazing woman coming in and helping out. Karen, she's been fantastic. I'm teaching her to sew, so I'm going to need other hands for doing tasks like tying knots and stuff like that. So you and I will talk, and I can get somebody in here to help me out. So
absolutely,
so we can kind of figure out. Where they're at and kind of like look at their skill sets that they may or may not have, and we can kind of like we can bring somebody in here.
You could just be our spokesperson for the program because that's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
we're looking to be able to get them into connections with other community members into positions. Yeah. We don't care if they're in here sweeping the floor. Yeah, it's connections and they can work their way up.
Yeah,
we all have done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, no, that would be. I've always had a team in mind, right? Like I've always had an idea of like where I want to bring my business. And like I feel kind of I feel kind of bad right now because we're here for you and for Philly Uknown. And you know, one of those things is always like I've always really wanted to have a veteran, because there's really good programs for it, and two, riggers they can sew, and I need people who can sew. I've always wanted to have some sort of like folks with like learning disabilities or something like that, like to help. Like I've always wanted to like figure out a way to make those things happen for other people who can like, you know, benefit from it.
We can definitely sit down and talk about this.
Now we can. So that's great. Like I'm really glad to make that connection, so that way we can, you know, with your program, we can kind of bring I could bring somebody in here.
And we have a lot of veterans.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll get that figured out.
Very cool.
As you know, we've talked about Few Fest Double Out 3, which is coming up, which is next weekend.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're super stoked about Few Fest.
I bet.
It's a little different than the last couple versions that Joey has had. I've kind of, I don't want to say I've stolen it from him, but I've kind of like taken the reins on it a little bit from my experience in the rucking community and with ruck-based events and stuff like that, and utilizing my network for it to kind of change it up a little bit, get more people involved with it, make it a little more approachable for just regular folks. And it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be fun, but you know, there's gonna be a little suffering. There's gonna be a little. I forgot what the slug that we came up with. It was history hangs, and I forgot what the other one was. Anyway, so we have that coming up, and then in the evening we have the open house here at HQ, which is the Fuel Hunt / Goodwerks headquarters. And
which, by the way, is sick.
Thank you. Great. Yeah, it's quite wild.
So they better show up for the open house, because to see this is just to see it in person. Be at this open house.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, and also be at the open house, because we're going to be collecting stuff to donate to Philly Uknown.
That's awesome.
So we need to.
Thank you.
We have to. You know, we talk about. When I say we, like Joey and I, leadership at Fuel Hunt, the team of Fuel Hunt, myself, we talk about and we post about leading with a servant heart and doing good for the community, our communities, for the community at large, making a difference in, you know, we're about manufacturing in the United States. We're about helping our country. We're about helping people in our communities. So we have to not just talk about that, but we have to put forth the action to do that, right? We can't just... You know, I'm not a hype brand. You know, I make all my stuff. I've been getting help, which has been amazing. However, like everything is built and made in this building, has always been built and made in my shop. And, you know, so, and then as far as Fuel Hunt goes, it's American-made products, screened in the United States, run by people in the United States. Joey and Drew live what they talk about. It's not hype. It's their true like core beliefs. So we needed to make sure that we are leading with the servant hand, and we are leading with the servant heart. So we reached out to Joey reached out to Kellen Williams. Is that right? Kellen runs Philly, who is also in recovery. This monster is doing a marathon every month this year, which is wild.
Yeah, Kellen, will you just stop it, please? Because there's some of us in recovery that don't run, dude. Kellen's an amazing dude.
Yeah.
He and his wife are on my board of directors, actually.
Oh, okay.
For Philly Uknown.
Awesome.
And Kellen, I actually did my very first cold plunge with.
How'd that go?
It went.
Yeah.
It went.
Yeah. It came and went, and I'm not going to do it again?
I want to do it again. I actually do, yeah. Awesome. But it was interesting.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's
Kellen's
an experience.
great.
Yeah,
great
so
dude.
Joey connected with Kellen. Kellen referred, recommended a couple of, boots on the ground organizations. So Joey and I definitely decided that, we wanted to help out you.
We are honored.
What kind of, so for the open house, we are going to be collecting items from people to as like a collection point. What type of items do you need? What type of things can people bring to the open house to benefit Philly Uknown? Like what are the most needed, most used items?
Sure. Some of the most needed items that we take out there would be socks, t-shirts, plain white t-shirts, whatever, socks, t-shirts, and a lot of hygiene products. When we talk about hygiene products, we talk about like personal hygiene products, toothbrushes, toothpastes, wipes, things along those lines.
Sure.
We also need out there water.
Okay.
We need water consistently. I mean, people think, water is easy to come by, but with the way things in this economy has gone, water went from $3 a case to like $7 a case in some places.
Yeah.
We try to get it as best we can, but water is always a necessity. Like we just went through 10 cases of water over Fairhill Park last week.
Okay.
We got a phone call from the food trust that the residents over there were hurting a little bit. So we took some water over, 10 cases of water and a bunch of snacks, non-perishable snack items.
Okay.
Anything like that's protein, like, granola bars or Kind bars, stuff along those lines.
Okay.
And then we also give them, non-perishables, like the goldfish crackers are great out there.
Sure.
We try to keep it simple for them out there, but we also try to give them stuff that's going to be meaningful. Think about when you wake up during the day, what is the most necessities that you got to put in your body? People want to cover their feet, want to cover their bodies, and they want to be protected from the elements.
Yeah.
So anything along those lines, and I do actually have a graphic that I could share with you.
Yeah, perfect.
That shows you what we put in our graphic, into our compassion bags.
Absolutely.
That could really help as well.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we are just grateful for whatever, and we will take it and we'll make use of it.
Perfect.
Because if we don't get it on the streets, we're going to actually give it to somebody that's a resident. If we can't use it, we will filter to an organization that will, because we believe that we want to be able to share what we have if somebody else doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do us any good if it's sitting inside of a warehouse all day long.
Right.
And people need it and they're out there. So we're really good about that. We love partnering. That was a whole nother concept of Philly Uknown, was to bring people together and connect them. So we are good with all that, but I can share that graphic.
Yeah,
really just basic human needs stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to be pushing out another email. I'm not totally positive on this, but I think we're going to push out another email, and I can put it out on mine as well. So yeah, that graphic would be super beneficial.
Awesome. Thank you for this.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's is kind of what you were saying earlier. You're not feeling selfless. You're chasing it for yourself. And I'm similar in that, where you have that feeling, like you get that, like I'm getting kind of like emotional about it now, but chasing that, like it feels like life. Like it's just like that energy that sits in your chest.
It's a natural high.
Yeah, big time.
You go home and you're still on that high.
Yeah.
Like I walk around some nights coming home from something like an outreach or an event.
Yeah.
And I'm pacing and I feel like I've been ramped up on maybe like Monster Energy all day long and I didn't drink it, but it's that high.
Yeah.
It's that personal high.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Everybody should experience that. If you don't, I don't think you're living for yourself.
Yeah.
You should always live for yourself, even while you're serving others.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and there's always a way to find a way to be of service.
Oh, absolutely.
And in a manner that is congruent with what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
So like feeling that is like a huge, like for how my body, my brain processes it, I get weepy eyed, like I get choked up. So like that's what I've been chasing.
Yep.
Like I chase that. And that's kind of, I've had days where I'll be waking up and like I can just feel it. Like I can just sit in it. And it's just like, I have those mornings where it's just like, it's quiet and it's peaceful. And then it's just like, you can feel the life. And it's like, so like doing this stuff, it's like, yeah, like it's cool. I like doing it, but it's like, am I doing it for other people? Yeah. Do I like to serve? Yeah. But like, it's that feeling. It's that like that vibration, that life that's really like a big driving force behind it. So when you say like, I'm not selfless, like I get that because there is a selfishness to it as well.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not like I'm selfish where I'm going to hide something from somebody or keep it all to myself because I will give it away because it's not mine to keep.
Right.
This is not mine to keep. The service is not for me to keep. It's to give away.
Right.
But selfishly, it keeps me from picking up.
Yeah.
It keeps me from going back in those dark times. It keeps me thinking about from walking to the bridge and saying, this is it.
Yeah.
There's all those things that it keeps you from. And I think people need to realize that when you are protecting your heart, you're protecting yourself and you're protecting yourself from harm. It's not selfish. It's more selfless then.
Yeah. It's self-preservation.
Yeah.
Because if you're not at your fullest self, then you're incapable of really providing or giving.
Agreed.
You can't. And I've learned that the hard way.
We all have.
Sure, right? Well, I wouldn't say that we've all learned that.
Everybody who has learned so far has probably learned the hard way.
Yes, correct.
There's so many out there who have yet to learn, and so many who will never learn.
Right, for sure.
And that's why it's up to us to be that voice.
Right, absolutely.
And share it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why that whole saying of take what you can and leave the rest is great. Take all you need for yourself, but rest, give it away.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. That the servant heart is in my life, as I've progressed, I've really learned that if you approach everything with gratitude and kindness and empathy, like, you're good. Like, that's all you need.
The last word you use is one of the hardest things for people to realize, and that's empathy. Empathy is just totally understanding. That's really all it is.
I don't even think that it doesn't even have to be understanding. I think it's just recognition. Yeah.
And as you were saying about you waking up and all of a sudden that just hit you, I was going to say to you, that's because you're an empath. Because you feel, and there's a little bit in all of us like that. Yeah. Like, I'm not one of those, I don't want to say.
A sensitive?
Yeah. I feel like I can feel energy from people.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah.
I can too.
So it's not like I'm like, oh my gosh, you got great energy and power.
Yeah, this isn't like woo-woo.
No.
It's not woo-woo.
It's like actually knowing people and human nature.
Yeah.
And I don't think that ever happened until I actually became sober.
Until you were clear.
Until my brain became rewired from all the drugs that I did. And and before I started realizing that, the center of my world wasn't that. It was being healthy and being able to pay it forward. Yeah. And that gives a little bit of that. But empathy, my gosh, you do not have to agree as long as you have empathy. That is so important.
So I'm gonna
go ahead
for the people that know me and some of my friends. I love The Office. The Office is just like I have some like really good memories with friends that were based around The Office, and I think it's the second episode of the first season. And it's why can't I remember the name of the episode now? I'm gonna get like ribbed for not remembering the name of this episode. So, but
season 1, episode 2, you don't even remember it.
I don't remember it, and I should really know this. It's Diversity Day. That's what it is. Okay, so they have this guy come in, and he has an acronym, and the acronym is HERO, HERO, which is honesty, empathy, respect, and open-mindedness. And it's like through the episode, it's like, okay, it's laughable, like, because it's built into the comedy, but it's like, man, that's actually quite powerful, and that's actually like really can be truly applicable to our lives. Yep. Like being honest with not other people, but with yourself, like with where you're really at. The empathy of not even understanding, but awareness of others and how they could be feeling, respecting others and yourself for that, and then open-mindedness, the ability, like what we were talking about earlier, like we can put the walls up and we can close in and we can put the blinders on and not recognize these things, or we can be vulnerable and open ourselves up and see like, hey, like what's actually happening, what's going on, like how can we affect change? So like, yeah, it's kind of like a little Easter egg that's been built into there. And then, I think a lot of people will skirt over because it's Diversity Day in The Office and it's a hilarious episode. But it's one of those things that it's truly a profound thing if you apply it, if you really apply it.
And it's pretty easy to apply.
It is.
I just think for some people it's, they got to drop that me attitude.
Yeah, big time.
Sometimes.
Big time.
You should focus on yourself, but once again, this is a we thing. We're all in this together.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
So this is amazing. So to hear everything you just told me is great. I'm stoked, for next weekend for you.
For us, I mean, it's gonna, and like you should, if
for us, a we thing.
Yeah, it's a we thing. It's a we thing.
With my hip, I will not be, out doing physical stuff, but
but the
I can live vicariously through you guys.
Well, you can come to the open house and hang out.
I'll be here.
Yeah, beautiful. We're gonna have the open house. We're gonna have, we're gonna have like a photo booth. We're gonna have people hanging out. Like everybody can come and check out the shop, check out Fuel Hunt, meet the team from Fuel Hunt. I'll be here, obviously. So that'll be on the 24th in the evening. We are gonna have food brought in. It is like catered with like light fare. So it's gonna be a good time.
Nice.
What can we do to help Philly Uknown? Like, where can we find you? What do you guys need the most, and what would be most beneficial for Philly Uknown?
Sure. Philly Unknown, we are out there at phillyouknownproject.org.
Okay.
On the internet. You can just Google Philly Unknown and you will find a plethora of stuff that pops up with us and who we are. We have our several different initiatives that I talked about. We need volunteers.
Okay.
We need people who want to come out and be hands-on. It doesn't have to be doing outreach. It doesn't have to be boots on the ground. We need it at the thrift store. We need it at the garden. We need it in different areas on admin side, behind the scenes, people who don't feel up to doing that. Volunteers are so important to us.
Okay.
And plus, being a nonprofit, we are a fully volunteer-run nonprofit. None of us take a salary. There is no money being paid out. So what we really need most of and foremost is we always look for the items that are donated from our wish list. We have an Amazon wish list for all of our items that we always want. And of course, money. Anybody who wants to donate money, we can use that.
Okay.
But they could always find us on any social media platform. Just type in Philly Unknown.
Okay.
Even though it's Philly Unknown Project, and you'll find us.
Perfect. Is there anything before we wrap up? Is there anything like that you'd like to add or say or?
No, this has been amazing to be able to sit here and. This has just been amazing to be able to sit here and to be able to share and to talk and just, it's a really great comfort for me. I mean, so I appreciate it and I appreciate your interest and thank you and Fuel Hunting and Fuel Hunt. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh my gosh.
It's all good.
Thank you, Fuel Hunt. And Goodwerks. I love that brand.
Thank you.
So yeah, guys, check out Goodwerks. I mean, with a E, not an O.
Thank you so much for spending and sharing your time and coming here and speaking with me. I'm really hoping that this will help kind of like bring awareness to what you're doing and what's going on in Philly. So that way we can get more interest, to get more help and hopefully spur some empathy and action. And also, I did watch a couple of documentaries real quick. Can you give listeners, watchers, viewers some info, like what they can look for, like on YouTube or wherever, where they can find information about what you're doing and the situation in Philly?
Sure. If you even go to Linktree, since Linktree has been this, great thing to formulate things, and type in user Philly Unknown, you'll be able to find most of our documentaries out there. We've done documentaries with Voice of America, highlighting the crisis here that we have in Philly. There has been one that was done on Philly Unknown itself and myself and how it became about Philly Unknown, a little bit more in depth with my family life. And there's a lot of different other pieces that were done on us out there that we would love to see people be able to view and check out, to see the work that we do and realize that there is a fine line between what people think is enabling and what is giving people the basic human necessities to get by day by day.
Sure.
So, and we pride ourselves on that. So they can go, like I said, Google and Philly Unknown, you'll find a plethora of stuff. But YouTube, you can Google Philly Unknown on there as well, and you'll find our videos.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that there will be links in the description for your Linktree, for your website, and for all that stuff. So that way, I mean, ease of use for everybody, so that they can just click away. I think it's it. If you don't have anything else for me,
my gosh, I think I've talked enough for days.
I mean, we can keep going.
We probably could.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then thank you everybody for listening and watching. Of course, this is this is a thing that I'm really like enjoying doing and loving doing, and again, it's not like there's only like 5 episodes. But
that's right.
But like I'm good.
It all starts somewhere.
Yeah, it definitely starts somewhere
with a passion.
So this was important for me to to get you here and get that set up before Few Fest, so that way we can hopefully generate some interest and get knowledge out, and hopefully bring in some stuff to benefit the folks that you're working with and working for and helping in the community.
I appreciate you and everything you're doing. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you. Thank you guys. And we'll have another podcast at some point. Yeah. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.